Good morning and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. Today, guys, we're bringing you the 10 at 10 for Tuesday, June 4th of 2024.
Woo, what's going on, guys? It's been a while since I've been on a video. I'm excited to jump back in with my brother Tim. Good to see you, man. Hope everything's been going well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm still buzzing from the open house that I got to work with you guys. I absolutely love that, man. We had talent out here, gave a presentation, talking plants with everybody. We had a blast, man. That was so cool.
We really did. And guys, we'll probably have another open house later in the summer. Pay attention to those lives. We're trying to do our best to put some good information in those lives about upcoming events, things going on. And there's always things going on here at Mr. Maple. We're that family mail order business. We ship directly to your door. We do over 1,000 varieties of Japanese maples. And today we're going to talk about 11 of the 20 trees going on today's 10 at 10 a.m. They get listed at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's for all those people who comment and they say, at 9:30, they say, where in the world? I can't find these trees on the website. And everyone's like, you're 30 minutes early.
Right.
It happens at 10 a.m.
So, man, sign up for that email, too. We're always putting out some killer plants. I love the way every week we're trying to outdo the last week. And we got a great lineup for you today. I'm excited to get talking about them.
It's interesting because I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now, I see one palmatum on the ground we're talking about today out of these 11 plants.
I mean, that's pretty exciting.
How unusual is that? So, guys, starting up today, we got Acer pseudo-sieboldianum hazelcus.
So, man, hazelcus, this is a pseudo-sieboldianum, like you said. So it's going to be a nice, cold, hardy plant for some of those northern growers. I love that about this species. You can get kind of in those colder climates and not worry as much about, getting those late freezes and things like that. So it's definitely a better hardy plant than your typical palmatum. Really cool leaf on it, too. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a japonicum, just the way it has that kind of deeply divided lobes. Kind of has a smaller leaf than a japonicum does, but it kind of gives you that feel.
It really does. Ed Hazelkus was a pioneer in those cold-tolerant Japanese maples. He found this hybrid pseudo-sieboldianum that could be a japonicum x pseudo-sieboldianum, could be a palmatum x pseudo-sieboldianum. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll tell you the thing that's really cool about this tree is it puts on some phenomenal fall colors of yellows infused with oranges and reds. For me, this is an amazing tree. And Ed Hazelkus, the original zone pusher when it comes to those hybrids, this is such a cool tree. It's definitely try in your garden. Whether or not you're in those cold zones or not, this tree makes a beautiful upright tree with amazing fall color.
Absolutely. A good grower too. Get about a foot of growth a year on this one. So it's going to make a really nice tree out in your landscape and just give you some nice green colors through the summer and spring, and then light it up in the fall with some yellows and reds like you were talking about. The sieboldianums really put on a cool display when you get into the fall display on that. I love that about these.
Yeah, it's awesome plant for sure. Next up, guys, we've got one of Brian's favorite Japanese maples of all time.
Man, as you can see, this thing is just glowing right now. I absolutely love Acer shirasawanum moonrise. People ask me all the time, what's your favorite maples, top 5, give me a top 10. This is always my #1 plant for sure. I mean, it just always puts on a show. I love the leaf shape on this, a nice, larger, kind of full moon rounded leaf on it. Great colors, man. This thing really starts the spring out with a show. Gives you some kind of orange pinks out there in the landscape. Really draws your eye out there. And then the whole season, man, it just keeps contrasting over and over and over. I love it.
It really does. Carl Munn outdid himself with this tree. It's one of the best Japanese maples on the market. It's heat tolerant, it's vigorous, and it's beautiful. The lime green to green yellow leaves with the apricot pinks that keep coming across this throughout the season create contrast on itself and contrast in the garden. So it's a tree that makes a dynamic statement, bold statement in the garden. This is a tree, it's an Acer shirasawanum that's just gonna really stand out. It's got that full moon style foliage that is just out of this world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everything about this tree is awesome.
It's a great plant, especially one of the things I do love about it too, that it leaves out a little bit later, kind of keeping you out of the danger of those late freezes and late frosts. I love that about it, and it's kind of late to the show too, so after everything else has really just been peaking out, moonrise comes in and steals the show again, and it's just like, man, this plant, it's always exciting. It draws your eye. I mean, you can make it a centerpiece, a background tree. It doesn't really matter where you put moonrise, it's going to be standing out. Man, we're bringing some heavy hitters today. Golly.
Guys, next up, we've got Acer japonicum Meiaku, also known as Aconitafolium, the dancing peacock Japanese maple. Sometimes referred to as the fern leaf Japanese maple. I don't really like that as much, just because I had one person see some lace leaves and thought they were ferns. So I always revert back to that. But this tree has leaves that look like a peacock displaying its feathers. And when this thing's in the fall color of yellows, oranges, and reds, I mean, it looks like a full peacock on display.
This is an exciting tree. I absolutely love Acer japonicums, and then this just takes it to a whole nother level. You know, I love how divided the lobes are on this, the nice serrated edges on each leaf. I mean, it's just an incredible tree to just admire out in the landscape. It's crazy, as long as I've been collecting, I just recently added this to my garden. I was super excited about it. So you pulled this out at the right time. I planted it in a spot where I walk by it every day when I get home from work. So I've been just admiring this tree out in my landscape. And so I'm like telling everybody on the screen right now, you guys got to get one of these. It's amazing. The fall color, like you said, with japonicums, it's just insane, man. Reds, yellows, purples, oranges, that goes crazy in the fall. It's going to brighten up any space in your garden.
The other thing I like about the japonicum, specifically Meiaku, is the fall color is based on the length of the day. So the amount of sunlight shortening, that actually affects the fall color and brings it in very consistently every year. It's not based on the cold weather coming in, which can be inconsistent. So you get a consistent fall color every year out of Meiaku. Check out our podcast we've got on Acer japonicums. We did a full breakdown on Acer japonicums, you know, when they got split up, a bunch of different cultivars from them, and we talked about Meiaku, so check that out.
Man, check out this tree. It's definitely one you want to add to your landscape. All right, Tim, what do we got coming up next here?
We got the palmatum.
Right, the one palmatum of the group today. But we didn't pick just a boring old palmatum. This is Acer palmatum Firefly.
Yeah, Firefly. This thing just keeps changing throughout the seasons. To me, it's one of the most colorful selections of those ghost types, of those reticulated types. When you get into that reticulated variegation, this is, to me, the primo of all of them. You get, in the early spring, a nice purple-red border that's very thick, with strong reticulated variegation, a strong upright habit, and just constantly changing all throughout the season.
Yeah, this was one I got really excited about whenever I came to work for you guys out here. It was one that was really not out there that much early on, but now it's really starting to gain a lot of popularity. You know, there's so many reticulated types out there, it's hard to know which one to choose, but you can't go wrong with Firefly. I mean, the reticulation on this is really, really detailed. The veining in it is super strong, and just those colors, man, it's like a multicolor, always kind of displaying a really nice kind of blushing over top of that green with the dark veining. Really nice plant for sure.
I know people have seen our photos and they say, it doesn't do that. It's like, guys, we take photos of the exact trees and it's constantly changing throughout the season. In the spring, it can look very different than the summer.
Yeah.
It can look very different in the fall. It can look very different with the summer new growth flushes. I mean, that's the thing about this tree. It's a tree of different identities. And if you go to the MrMaple Friends group on Facebook, type in the search bar Firefly, you're going to see people all across the country posting photos of their Fireflies, because it's one, when they see it, they want to brag about it.
Yeah.
And they share it in the MrMaple Friends group. If you want to be a part of that Maple Mafia, go to Facebook, check out our MrMaple Friends group on Facebook.
Absolutely. Oh man, here we go. We got another shirasawanum here. I love the Acer shirasawanums. Today we got Acer shirasawanum Johin.
Yeah, Johin's a selection by Talon Buchholz, and to me, this is just that really nice plum color in the early spring with green veins. It's very prominent. Give it some protection from the hot afternoon sun, but we're talking 4 to 6 foot in height by about 6 foot in width in 10 years with an upright habit. Very unique for an Acer shirasawanum.
Yeah, I absolutely love this tree. This is one that I've grown quite a bit in my years of collecting. I had a really nice one of these back in Oklahoma. And what I really like about this cultivar is you get a lot of different variances depending on where you plant it in your garden, depending on whether you put it in some sun or some shade. In the shade, you can kind of get these cool like chocolate tones, these kind of like chocolate maroon tones. You get it out in the sun a little bit more, you get a little bit more of that burgundy red, kind of plum red color. But it's really cool. It's got some nice kind of veining in that as well. Man, I love the leaf shape on this.
Now this tree pairs exceptionally well with Moonrise.
Yeah.
Moonrise we were just talking about has that yellow-green growth and then that pink color on top of it, that pink red. I mean, it's just in crazy colors. Contrasts so well with the darker foliage of Johin. They both give a really different feel in the landscape and garden, different tones, different moods for the garden, but they just contrast so well plant these things together, grow them in containers, they're gonna rock it out.
Absolutely, just love that plant. What we got here?
We got some Welsh pots of Cryptomeria japonica twinkle toes.
I mean, is that my nickname? No, I don't think so. No, no one's ever called me Twinkle Toes before, but it might stick. You know, I don't know. But no, this is a really cool dwarf conifer. I'm always working in a small space in my garden, so I'm always looking into the dwarf varieties. I mean, look at that gold color. It's crazy, man. A really, really nice Cryptomeria. I love the Cryptomeria. I mean, they have just such a unique style of just their foliage. Really draws you in, and then you get that golden color. It even draws you even more. So
I remember Tom Cox down in Georgia. He loved the Cryptomerias. He was the author of Landscaping with Ginkgos and Conifers in the South. We've got some videos, highlights of his garden. We've got some podcasts with him. I mean, a wealth of knowledge when it comes to conifers. He had one of the best Cryptomeria collections in the world down in Georgia. And he loved Cryptomeria because they're heat tolerant, they perform well, and they can handle a little more shade than some of the other conifers. Yeah. So amazing plants. And with Cryptomeria twinkle toes, you get a dwarf compact habit, dense, super dense, and yellow year-round color on this twinkle toes.
Yeah, I mean, you could fit this in anywhere in your landscape. You don't have to worry about something just taking over a huge space. A lot of Cryptomerias can get pretty good size, and this is a great dwarf in that species to add to your collection. Man, I'm
From one conifer to another conifer. This is the deciduous conifer. We've got Metasequoia Sherman's Nordlich.
Yeah, I mean, the Don redwoods are absolutely amazing trees. I mean, it's a prehistoric plant that has made it into, you know, where we are now these days, and this is a great variance of that. A nice dwarf out in the landscape. Really cool coloring on this. It's really kind of hard to describe, just kind of that you know, light white milky color that it gets out, and you know, when it first starts leafing out. It's really interesting foliage on it.
Yeah, this was found as a witch's broom, so a dwarf mutation on the cultivar white spot by a guy named Sherman in Germany. Nordlich means north light. So this is Sherman's north light, Sherman's Nordlich. And it just fits in smaller spaces. It's a deciduous conifer, so it loses its needles during the winter. But then you see the red wood that redwoods, Don redwoods, are famous for. So it has some nice winter interest as well. Don redwoods can actually handle those wetter spots in the garden, so you can put a smaller ornamental tree in those wetter places in the garden with something like Metasequoia Sherman's Nordlich. A maple needs good drainage. Sherman's Nordlich, it can handle that wetter spot, or it can go in that good drainage area as well. So It's very versatile on where you can place this tree in the garden.
Absolutely, and most people, when you're thinking of a Don redwood, you're like, man, I don't have room for that. But this is a cultivar that's going to fit in a lot of different spaces. I love the dwarf conifers, man.
Guys, next up, we've got a dazzling new conifer for the first time on Mr. Maple. We got Cupressus Greenstead Magnificent.
Yeah, this thing has got some killer color. I think we were all just sitting here admiring this wonderful, like, blue-green color. Nice little frosting to it as well. I love the texture of this. This is cypress, so it's got a really nice texture to it. And we got a couple of options too. We've got a one on a standard and then a low graft here.
Yeah, so we got some 2-gallon sizes, some good sizes on these. It's a newer conifer to me, but the Cupressus, such an awesome plant. This one gives a really nice soft foliage to it, which is really awesome in the landscape of gardens. It gets almost like the seafoam kind of green color, and we're talking a 3x3 in 10 years. Yeah. So it makes a small, compact conifer that's excellent for your Japanese maple garden, excellent for rock gardens. But the color on this is just outrageous.
Yeah, I think this is going to provide some really good contrast out in the landscape. You can pair this with so many different things, you know, to really play off that color and texture differences out in your landscape. I really love this thing, man. I love the tall graft on this. Really gives it some height. That's going to just kind of mound out from there. A nice slow grower too, so it's not going to get out there too quickly and stay in your spot, you know, contain it in that area.
Now, I was reading on the American Conifer Society's website, and they actually said when you give this tree some sunlight, new growth can actually get some pink on top of this like seafoam green, which seems pretty outrageous. They said it's hard to depict in photos, but that in person, it just steals the show. So a new conifer is going to sell out quickly today on Mr. Maple. Make sure you finish that checkout process quickly, because our website doesn't hold it for you until you complete that checkout process.
Magnificent.
Guys, next up, we've got Cercis Flamethrower.
Flamethrower. I mean, break out the flamethrower. This thing's going to be spraying some amazing color out in your garden. I just planted one of these. My wife was really enjoying the colors on this. She's like, we got to have one of these in the garden. And so I've got this planted out near a couple of maples, and I'm just really liking the color contrast it's already providing. Even though it's small, you still get a nice splash of color.
My wife told me, she said, make sure you keep a flamethrower for us.
Yes.
She said, we need to go ahead and figure out where we're building on our piece of property we purchased so we can go ahead and plant the flamethrower so it starts getting some size to it. So our wives are thinking the same thing. Now, the thing I like about flamethrower is this tree is beautiful right now. But if you come check this tree back out in like June, July, this right here turns to a brighter yellow color. These right here turn to a brighter red.
Yeah.
So July, August, flamethrower is at its peak.
Right.
That's when it is really still in the show. It's looking good now, but the sunlight brings out the colors on flamethrower. And this is a selection by Denny Werner, NC State University, one of the best redbud breeders in the world. And he really developed something special with flamethrower. He has a colorful Cercis that just keeps putting on a show all throughout the year.
I love that you brought that up because, you know, a lot of times, a lot of plants when it comes into the summer months have kind of, you know, peaked out and they're starting to kind of fade into, you know, those summer greens, but this thing is still just rocking it with some color. Really contrasts within itself a lot, and that's what I like about this tree. You don't really need a lot of other things around it to create that color dynamics because this thing's going to do it all on its own.
Now, we originally had, the first time we listed flamethrower, we had some 3 gallons that were about this size of these XL 1 gallons. And we listed them, and there was over 100 of them, and they sold out in like 2 minutes. So I know there's a high demand for this plant.
Very popular.
I often wonder, like, how much demand is there for this plant because it's so beautiful that, Matt was joking with me. I told him there's more of a demand for this plant than people know about it.
Right.
Because the second they see it, they're like, oh, I've always wanted that plant, and I never knew about it until then.
Yeah, exactly.
So it is a beautiful tree that steals the show. It's very ornamental. It goes in your Japanese maple garden and continues to give you amazing colors on a Cercis. Cercis are native. So this is actually a nativar, a native selection of a redbud. Guys, get you one of these today. They're going to sell it quick. Guys, next up, we've got Acer palmatum, Lilian's jewel. I guess I was wrong. There were multiple palmatums. I just weren't counting the 10 gallons. They didn't go on the table.
That's right.
It didn't go on the table.
So technically, we weren't wrong.
But Lilian's jewel, one of the most colorful Japanese maples.
This is one of the best variegated Japanese maples in my opinion. This thing is always putting on a crazy show. Hot pinks and reds. When this thing leaves out in the spring, it will blow your mind. I mean, this thing is just absolutely insane. I had one planted out in my garden, out by the gate by my fence, and I had like neighbors that would walk by. They'd be walking their dogs, and they'd be like venturing into my yard, like, what in the world is that over there? It's like this crazy hot pink plant out in my garden. It just always draws your eye in. Love this variegated maple.
Yeah, I was just talking to Jonathan Savlich, who found this tree and named it after his daughter just the other day. Jonathan's been a friend of ours for years. And guys, he was telling me, he said, what do I do about people calling it Lil Annie's Jewel or Extravaganza? I said, we're going to keep telling people on the MrMaple Show, when they see that, tell those people they're wrong. The correct name on this tree is Lilian's Jewel. This thing is a beauty out in the garden. I've been growing it for years. One of my good friends, Richard Bomar, he was one of the first guys with this, as well as us. He was growing this in full sun in Simpsonville, South Carolina, and it was really handling the heat and giving good pink color. Yeah,
this is one I grew in Oklahoma in full sun as well, and it really does. It's surprising because it's got so much variegation that you would think you'd have to really protect that, but it can handle the heat. And what's also cool about it is, depending on your landscape, because not everybody has, you know, the right kind of sun versus shade, but you can get some really cool, interesting colors depending on if you plant this in shade or in sun. In sun, you're going to get more hot pinks and reds, and in shade, you're going to get more of those green tones with white and pink highlights. So you can really play on the difference in just colors on this tree, just depending on where you plant it in your landscape.
And we've got these in 7 gallons.
Yeah.
So we've got these in some killer sizes right now. Take advantage of these big sizes we've got on the 10 at 10s. We can ship them now. That means they're not going to last long at the nursery. So guys, take advantage of these while you can, because we're shipping these directly to your door, and you can have a big presence right away.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, sometimes it's worth just that instant gratification and seeing a size like this. I mean, you plant this out in your landscape, you're going to immediately, it's going to create a huge presence out in your garden. You're not going to have to wait for like a smaller 1 gallon to grow. This thing's going to just, boom, give you a splash of color, and we're excited to be able to offer this. Bringing in the big guns. Team, we need team lift on that or what?
We might.
You got it? Oh, all right.
Oh,
Golly, look at the size of this thing.
guys, we got Acer palmatum Kamagata.
I can't even see Tim over there. I have to peek through here just to talk to him, but Kamagata is a awesome dwarf Japanese maple, and the size and structure on these is just absolutely amazing right now, what we have available here at MrMaple.com. So definitely don't wait on some of these. You see this pop up, you better jump on it.
Guys, we're offering these in 10 gallons. There's some massive sizes in these 10 gallons for Kamagata. Kamagata is a selection by J.D. Vertrees himself, the guy who wrote the book on Japanese maples. We actually did a whole walking through his garden at his home, his nursery, where it all started, where he wrote the books. You can go check that out. Kamagata was found there, introduced there by J.D. Vertrees himself. And Kamagata is heat tolerant. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
You give this tree some sunlight, you get some bronze edging to it. This is a tree that we've grown in western North Carolina next to brick, southwest facing exposure, where I can't grow many Japanese maples. The heat just, dries them out. Kamagata thrives and does well there.
Yeah, this is an awesome dwarf. I mean, dwarf Japanese maples are so cool because they fit in so many different spaces. And a lot of times, it's hard to just kind of imagine in your mind, what is this going to look like? Well, these 10 gallons give you like that instant, okay, I can fit this right here. It's going to take up this whole nice space and not get a whole lot bigger than what you're seeing. So I really love that, we're able to offer some of these bigger sizes. I think it's really exciting to be able to ship these out now. I think you guys are, in for a surprise when you open that box up and see this thing come out. You're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Acer palmatum Kamagata.
Well, guys, that was 11 of the 20 trees on today's 10 at 10. And so these trees are getting listed at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to find that other 9, check your email out. If you don't get the email, sign up for it on MrMaple.com.
Man, and stay tuned for the information about open houses coming up. And always sign up for that newsletter. We're sending out all kinds of information to you guys to keep you informed about amazing trees that are coming to the website.
So before you leave today, smash that like button. Take care.
God bless.
And have a great day.